Hello everyone, you're welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'll be showing you how to make a beautiful gathered neckline, the one you're seeing on the screen. Let's get started. I added seam allowance to the armhole, no seam allowance on the shoulder and on the neck line for now. Now I'm going to transfer the bust dart to the waist. I'm sure most of you should understand, the process of transferring a dart from one spot or one point on the pattern to another. Okay, now I'm going to lower the neckline. Of course, I've done that already by 0.25 inch. It's optional. Okay, so now for my inset band, the width is going to be 1.5 inches. And of course, I am connecting the point like so. So you measure down from the neckline to, wherever you want it to get to. Now I am cutting. So ensure you label it. Very important. This is my center front. And here is my shoulder line. And this cutout is known as inset band. Inset band. Okay. So next is to measure 1 inch from the center front inward. And you do the same on the neckline. The same 1 inch, and you connect the point to have a straight line. Now this is so important because it will help the center front to be balanced. Okay, this is very, very important for this kind of design. Now from the center front, this is my center front. From this center front on the neckline, I will measure 2 inches up. 2 inches up. And mark. Now right from my nipple point, I'll connect to this new point on the neckline. Okay. And you, from the same nipple point, you draw another slash line on both sides of the first line, like so. Then from the waistline, you connect to the neckline. No measurement required. Okay. And from the side as well, you connect. These are my slash lines because I'm going to be slashing them later on. Okay. So for me, I don't think there's any need to measure. Oh no, power outage. Now let's continue. So because of the power outage, I had to draw my slash lines off camera. So can you see what I did? My lines are neatly drawn. Apart from measuring from the center front to this line, this point. So apart from this, I did not measure the space in between my slash lines. So just use your discretion and draw your slash lines accordingly. Okay? So this is what I have. Now I'm going to lower the armhole. Very important for me. I feel the armhole measurement, round armhole is a bit small for me. So my total round armhole measurement with the back, front and back gives me 19 inches. So I want to increase it a little. So I'll come down by 0.375. And here then do the same on the back as well. Okay, so now before I cut or open the slash lines, I'm going to use this pattern to cut my lining. My lining is not going to have gathers at all. So my lining would only have this dart from here to this point. This is my dart, okay? So it won't have all these ones. It is only the main fabric that will have gathers on it. So, but the lining would also have the inset band with it as well. Okay, so I'll just cut my lining before slashing. And going to my back, I'm going to come down by 0.375 as well, just to increase the round armhole measurement. Okay, so, and of course this is my back pattern, my zipper allowance. And remember that I came down by 1/4 of an inch before cutting out. So what I would do, I'll do the same on the shoulder, but of course this doesn't really matter if I don't come down by 1/4 of an inch. It doesn't matter. So because I want a neck I want a round neck and not too down. So it depends on what you want. So, but I just decided to come down by 1/4 of an inch. And here I came in by 1/4 of an inch, but decided to mark not up to 1/4 of an inch, just the same thing I did on the front neckline before I cut out my inset band. Okay, so this totally depends on you, you know, what you do around your neck. Okay, so now for the inset band, my inset band is about 1.5 inches. So I decided to pattern my facing with the amount 1.5 inches. Okay, you may do 2 inches if you want. And look at the facing right there. So I'll just use my tracing. We trace this out, then cut my lining. Sorry, I'll cut, you know, I said I was going to cut the front pattern on the fabric just using the lining before slashing. This back, I'm going to cut the real fabric with this. Okay, and once I'm done cutting with this, I will cut out my facing, my back facing. So once I finish cutting out my back facing, I can now use the remaining parts to cut the lining. I hope you understand my points. The lining will be different from the facing on the inner parts internally. I hope you understand my point. So that is exactly what I'll be doing on this as well. The facing for the inset band will have the same fabric with the normal inset band, the outer one. So why the under would have lining. So that's why I need to cut this on my lining first before slashing, if that makes sense. So now you'll see my facing, my inset band front. This is the center front. This is, so I've added my allowance already. Okay, so but the front, the center front will be cut on fold. Okay, so I'm cutting 2 of this. I'm cutting 2 of this. Well, not 2 actually, because I will be cutting on fold. So the full front is what I'll cut using the pattern. Okay, so this is what I have. And I have my sleeve already. This is my straight sleeve. Okay, this is my straight sleeve. So once you are done drafting the straight sleeve, then you can now turn it to a fitted sleeve. So if you want. So please, if you know you could be confused adding seam allowance first, please don't add until you are done. Okay, so but I'm going to, like I said, I'll cut this on my lining. I'll use it to cut my lining. Then I may just remove the seam allowance on the armhole so that I'll be able to, you know, spread properly. So then once I'm cutting on fabric, I'll now add my seam allowance. Okay, so let me just quickly bring down the armhole. So my seam allowance can now start from here upward 1/2 inch. Then I'll trim out the remaining parts. So it's now time to slash. So the first thing, I'll slash the first line that was connected to the nipple line initially, so that I can close the dart on the waist. So once I open it up, then I can bring the darts together on the waist. Okay, so now I want the pattern to be very stable, and that is why I need to position the center front right on the edge of another paper, because I don't want it to start moving around. So now I'm slashing right now, as you can see. Then I'm going to remove the seam allowance that I added initially, so that I'll be able to slash properly. Spread properly. So all these I'm going to open up. But first, I will just close up the dart on the waist with my tape. So that has to be permanently closed, because I don't need it anymore. It has been transferred already to the neck. So every slash lines has to be opened up just this way. Okay, and of course you blend first before you add your seam allowance. Very important. So you blend it around just as you can see, and of course you can now add your seam allowance of 1/2 inch, and also seam allowance on the shoulder, seam allowance on the armhole as well, because the main fabric is very stretchy but thick, and that's why I needed to use the lining that is very light and stretchy as well. Okay, so I decided to add seam allowance to the lining because I want the lining to be freer or looser on the inside. So, but for the main fabric, I won't be adding seam allowance because it is stretchy. And also, I forgot to tell you that I removed 2.5 inches from my round measurement, okay, before I started drafting the pattern. Why? Because the fabric is very stretchy. So now I am cutting on my main fabric. So you can see I'm done cutting, and right now this is where my slash line starts from. So I'm going to mark it just as shown on the fabric, and here the center front I will notch. So opening it up like this, I'm going to take it to my machine and gather from this point to the next. Okay, so here is going to start, my gathering is going to start from there and going that way. So now I'll pull and pull and pull to gather up. Okay, so this effect can also be directed to the main neckline if you don't want an inset band. But I just feel that this is better. I feel this is better because, using this directly on the neckline might be a bit complicated for me. But if you can do that, fine. Okay. So this is my gathers, can you see? And right now I'm going to close the dart on the lining. It's a big dart, okay? So you close it this way, sew it. So once you're done, then I trimmed the excess on the waist. Okay, so this is my front inset, the outer part, the one that will be attached to the gathers. And here I have my back facings well interfaced as well. And this is also my front inset for the inner part that will be attached to the lining. So right now on the down part of this, I will notch the middle. I had already notched the middle part on the remaining lining, so I'll just match together this way. So first to the shoulder point, and to the middle. So just ensure you pin round. Okay, so and you stitch together to have one piece. Please, when you are doing this, you just have to take your time. Don't rush, because this is a very stretchy fabric. You can use a non-stretchy fabric. Okay, so but this has to be done, not too slowly anyway, but at least you have to take your time in a way to avoid mistakes. So this is my main fabric, and I would be attaching the inset to the gathers, okay, to also make it one piece. So you need to pull a little just for the gathers to go round the inset band. So I'm also trying to notch as shown, and the notch on the down part has to also be matched with the one on the inset band. And of course you know that the notch is on the center front, so it has to just go well with it. So I'm trying to pull out a little to cover up the inset band. So this is what I have. So now that I'm done, next is to sew. So sewing this for me took a while because I just needed to, slowly do this on the sewing machine, because this involves gathers and you just have to be very careful. You have to be very careful because the fabric itself shakes, okay, because it's stretchy. So this has to be done steadily. Don't rush it. Okay, so once I'm done attaching, you can see how lovely it looks right now. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the loose thread, the thread that was used to gather it initially. This has to be removed completely, very, very important, so that the fabric itself can relax well. Okay, so this is the outcome, and here is my back facing that's would be attached. I'm attaching together, joining the facing to the remaining fabric. So this is what I have. Thank you so much for watching, and this is the outcome. Beautiful, right?